So we are going to talk today about something serious and something for play, I guess you could say. First, let's go into something serious here. This Tuesday is the 2022 midterm election. And I'm not going to go too much into it, but I obviously am running as a write-in candidate for office. So we're going to see how that goes. But the election overall is, this gets exhausting, but every election, it seems like, over the course of the last decade and a half has been deemed as the most important election of our lifetime. And after a while, one gets fatigued with that. One starts to take it less seriously. And if the Republicans manage to win, especially with so many candidates who are election deniers, and by that I mean candidates who deny that the 2020 election was fair and free and that Biden really won. These election denier candidates have a lot of appeal with the Trump base. And then, of course, you have Trump himself, who's hanging as a dark cloud overhead, who is likely to announce a third bid for the presidency sometime this month. So 2024 could just be the trilogy of the awful 2016 and 2020 elections. So this is the most important election up to this date, because it gives the people a chance to again resoundingly reject fascism. And let's be honest, the previous election cycle, two presidential election cycles did not resoundingly reject fascism. 2020 was too close for comfort. Biden won, but popular vote wise, yeah, he beat Trump by about, 5 million votes? 5 to 7 million votes. So conceivably that wasn't close. When it came to the Electoral College, Biden won in a technical landslide, but a minor one. However, on the state-by-state basis, it was too close for comfort. We didn't know who won the election until almost a week later, as the count rolled in. And of course, the 2018 midterm election had the people rise up and reject fascism to a degree, as they gave Democrats a decent majority in the House of Representatives, and of course chipped away at the Republican majority in the Senate at the time. But now this year has all the potential to undo that progress between the 2018 and the 2020 elections of pushing back against fascism. A lot of it you can thank Democrats who are weak-kneed, like Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema. Sinema was an okay champion of the people when Trump was in office, and I mean okay is that she's a moderate Democrat, but now she's taken this stand with Biden in office to reject a giant chunk of what Biden, who is a moderate, what Biden wants to do, which has arguably hurt the Democrats' chances of retaining the majorities. Now, of course, the winds of history most certainly are against the incumbent political party in the White House and in Washington, D.C. It's always against that incumbent party, especially the party to which the president belongs to. But that's still, in this time, when you see a lot of these extremist candidates on the right wing, you have to be concerned about the outcome of this election and what it means for the fight to save democracy, because especially when you have the January 6th Commission looking into the attempted insurrection, and of course attempted overthrow of our government and installing Trump basically as a dictator. That may not have been their stated goal at the time, but that's likely what would have happened. They would have overthrown democracy in this country. And that was frightening. That was the icing on the cake, or at least it should have been. But now we're apparently adding more layers. So this election has ramifications for democracy, for the rule of law, because if Trump is not held accountable, then the rule of law effectively doesn't matter, which I've been arguing for a long time that's already been hurt over, several successive presidents of violating the law and not being held to account. Bush, for instance, most certainly pushed the envelope on that, and Trump took what Bush did and just ran with it, and Obama did a little bit of his own too, but that's a long conversation for a podcast episode in and of itself. But suffice to say, this is an extremely important election that everyone needs to care about. And thankfully, turnout numbers look like they're going to be pretty high, but that could mean anything. You could have turnout high because a lot of people want to reject President Biden and the Democrats, but you could also have high turnout because there's excitement on both sides. You have animated people on the right wing who want to push back against Biden and point out that inflation, which is, it's tough. It's bad. Of course, people saying the economy is bad, but it's not really. Especially with people's wages rising. It's just the pain that people feel is when they, their sticker shock, if you will, when they go into the grocery stores. But then you also have excitement on the Democratic side, pushing back against the overturning of Roe versus Wade and a lot of the other extremist things that happen. But that's like the primary thing is Roe versus Wade. So yeah, and also defending LGBT rights, LGBT plus, I should say. I've added way too many parts of the alphabet to that. I'll just keep it simple at LGBT. So yeah, these are the things that we're looking at. This is a very interesting midterm election coming up. I don't want to make any predictions one way or the other. I know I made predictions earlier in the year, especially about what history tells us and the likelihood of how many seats Republicans can pick up. That's if they pick up anything. Of course, those predictions were made before Roe versus Wade was overturned. So we'll see. Either way, now let's get to something not serious, something for fun, because politics is important, but a lot of people don't like to listen to politics, and if you're here listening for wrestling, let's talk about wrestling. So tonight is Crown Jewel, I should say today, and less than an hour is Crown Jewel. Let's get into my predictions for the event. It's been a great month in WWE. Talk about Halloween Havoc. Halloween Havoc was great. SmackDown's been significantly better, especially this drama with the Bloodline and Sami Zayn. We'll get into that momentarily. Raw obviously it's been the top show since the summer. But this has just been a great series of events. I want to talk briefly about the Intercontinental title scene and the U.S. title scene. Seeing Seth Rollins with the U.S. title has been awesome. That connects with one of the matches I'm going to talk about here shortly with Crown Jewel. And then, of course, the Intercontinental title scene with Gunther holding this title. Like, I always knew he was going to be a great champion. It was a great decision by McMahon and company to put the title on Gunther. Now that Gunther is champion, he's had some awesome title defenses, including against Rey Mysterio on SmackDown. I'm going to try and expand my Spreaker account so I can have more posts. I hate that I have a limit on how many hours of shows I can have on here. I don't want to ever delete any of these. But anyways, let's get into Crown Jewel. Braun Strowman versus Omos. I think that this is going to be an easy, well, not an easy one for Braun, but it's an easy decision for me to say that Braun Strowman is going to win. Omos is a monster, but they brought Braun Strowman back for a reason. And I think he's going to win this match. It's going to be decent, but I think he's going to win it. The OC versus Judgment Day. Judgment Day has had like a mixed record since they've come into the scene. I really like the group, but they also they struggle a lot storyline wise. Not that the story's bad, but I'm saying the Judgment Day doesn't have consistent victories, under their belt. Either way, they had a good victory over Edge recently. So the OC was brought in as a surprise, and this is their first big stage of since they came back. Well, since Gallows and Anderson came back. So I don't see any way that the OC loses, unless, of course, this is wrapped up at Survivor Series. Either way, I think it's going to get wrapped up at Survivor Series. So, yeah, I see the OC winning. Lesnar and Lashley, I believe this is part of a trilogy. So, Lashley got the victory in their first singles match against each other back at the Royal Rumble, winning the WWE title. They were supposed to have, because so far they've had 3 encounters, only 1 singles encounter. First encounter was at day 1, which was awesome. That short match, but it was an awesome thing to see Lesnar and Lashley finally in the middle of the same ring together. Lesnar won that match after Lashley had dominated him in their brief interaction. Then they had their first ever singles encounter at Royal Rumble. Lashley won that. Then Lesnar won the match at Elimination Chamber, but Lashley got injured before Lesnar could even enter the ring, unfortunately. So they've had 3 official encounters, but only 2 of them did they ever actually lock horns, if you will. But singles bout wise, I believe this is part of a trilogy, with the first part obviously being Royal Rumble. This is going to be number 2. So Lashley won the first one. I think Lesnar's winning this one because I think the last part of the trilogy is going to be at WrestleMania. I think that's what they're going with this, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I would love to see this wrap up in a trilogy at WrestleMania, which is where it should have wrapped up all along. And maybe you end Lesnar's career at WrestleMania. I hate to see Lesnar's career come to an end, but it would make sense given his 1.5-year contract and so many set matches. So I'd like to see Lesnar and Lashley one more time. That would be awesome. Tag title match for the Usos. So yeah, Lesnar's going to win that. But Usos versus the Brawling Brutes. Usos are going to break the record for longest tag team title reign in WWE history. They just are. They haven't been building this for all this time for no reason. So Usos are going to win this. But I think the Usos are going to go into a really awesome feud against the New Day as the New Day tries to protect their record. So they had a really good push about that on SmackDown. And speaking of SmackDown and the Usos, can't talk about them without talking about Usi and how SmackDown and this interaction with the Bloodline and Sami Zayn has just been, I mean, it's been thoroughly entertaining. And as a lifelong WWE fan, there's been a lot of standout moments for me, and this was definitely one of the standout things, was having Sami Zayn and the Bloodline together. Like, everything with Jey Uso and Sami has been absolutely stellar, because it's been thoroughly entertaining. As you could tell, Jey Uso wants to tear Sami Zayn's head off, but it's like, it's almost as if it's almost as if Roman wants to just torment Jey a little bit, you know, trying, like, playing games with him and seeing how far they can push it. Like, I'm saying, like, character-wise. But it's almost like Roman is trying to push Jey's buttons, but eventually this is going to blow up and Sami Zayn's going to get beat down, because he is getting over as a babyface again, and I love it. He deserves it. But, yeah, either way, come back to Usos are going to win their match. But this thing with Sami Zayn and Roman, Solo Sikoa, and the Usos, it's been awesome. And I hope it lasts at least till WrestleMania. I hope it does. But I think WrestleMania 40, I want Roman to at least hold the title until WrestleMania 40. I think WrestleMania 40, you have something go down where Jey Uso and Roman, where all this with the Bloodline comes to a head and it blows up. I know that's a really long storytelling, but I am here for it. All right. Next, the women's tag team title match, which this is just how I read it on the website. This is why, well, actually, this is how it was coming up to memory. So I was just writing down all the matches according to memory, and I only missed 2 in my memory. But anyways, tag team title match for the women's division. Alexa Bliss and Asuka. They just won the women's tag team titles on Raw. So it is highly unlikely they're going to drop it, 5 days later. They're not going to. So Alexa and Asuka are retaining this, but that also, I think, is going to have an influence on the women's title match. But I think it's still going to be a good match. Dakota Kai and Io Sky are awesome wrestlers. And I'm going to have one of 2 predictions about the Bayley-Bianca match here in a second. But Kai and Sky are going to... I think they're going to barely lose to Asuka and Alexa. Obviously, it's not going to be a blowout. Anyways, that's my prediction there, and it's mostly because of two things: the women's title match and the fact that Alexa and Asuka just won their tag titles. The only way I see Alexa and Asuka losing is if Alexa turns heel and turns on Asuka. That's the only way I see that happening. But there aren't really any indicators that she's going to do so. I mean, I think they've thrown some clues here and there that something might happen soon. But Alexa and Asuka, I think, are going to retain. Women's title match, last woman standing. So, because I believe that Dakota Kai and Io Sky are going to lose, I believe that that's going to have bearing on the women's title match. And, of course, the last laugh roll holds that all the signs point towards Bayley winning. Bianca's had a decent title reign. She doesn't need to hold it till next year's WrestleMania. Bianca doesn't have to. And not to mention, it's nice to sort of get a changing of the guard every now and then. So I think Bayley's going to win this. And if she loses, though, then that means that Damage Control is going to get broken up. And I don't see that happening, but that's the only outlet here, is that if Damage Control loses everything at Crown Jewel, then they're on the way out. And I only see Kai and Sky winning the tag titles if Alexa turns on Asuka. And I only see Kai and Sky losing and then Bayley losing if Damage Control breaks up. So, either way, something big's happening here. And it's between these two matches. And I think it's going to be Kai and Sky losing, but Bayley winning to keep Damage Control at least a little bit relevant heading into Survivor Series and getting prepared. Because that's what I think is really coming up, is probably a War Games match involving these 6 women. And that would be awesome. That will be awesome. Anyways, that's what I think is happening, is Bayley's winning the women's title. Drew McIntyre versus Karrion Kross cage match. A lot of people are predicting Drew. Mostly because he has already lost 2 consecutive pay-per-view matches. And it's hard to foresee him losing a 3rd consecutive one. But I don't have that much difficulty seeing him lose, because I think Karrion Kross is getting, about to get a major push, so I see Karrion winning. Plus, the last laugh roll holds that Karrion is in strong position. At least a series of things that have happened. But either way, Karrion Kross, I believe, is winning this match, because I see him being thrust into the title picture very soon. But if Drew wins, I mean, that makes sense too, because he has lost 2 consecutive pay-per-view matches. Anyways, finally, WWE title, Universal Undisputed title. Roman Reigns is going to win this thing. It's going to be good. It's going to be cool seeing both Paul brothers up there and all this stuff. Logan Paul is going to put up a huge fight, but Roman Reigns is going to win. And that's that. That's that. Roman is going to win this. So, and also another slight possibility of Sasha and Naomi returning. Either way, those are my predictions for Crown Jewel. Let's see what happens. It starts in less than an hour.